All righty. Well, welcome to how to do a life audit. Quick question. Just want to make sure that um, you are seeing the screen. If you just in the chat put a quick yes, that'd be great. Just to make sure. Perfect. Okay, well, we will get it going then. Thank you for joining me here tonight. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Scott Schilling. I am an executive coach, international trainer, and a speaker. And I'm the author of a newly released book, That Sucks, What Now? Real World Solutions to Getting Through What You're Going Through. Now, the reason for this webinar is simple. Just as I've been through personally, I've gone through a significant number of life and business challenges throughout my career, which is really the foundation of my latest book. I thought it would be valuable to use the last month of 2019 to do a little self-examination of our own lives and take whatever appropriate steps are necessary to get ready to truly have a fabulous 2020. Hopefully you have a piece of paper and a pen available to you. Take a few notes, maybe jot down a few questions. You can also type them into the chat window for discussion at the end of the webinar. So let's prep ourselves to make the rest of our life the best of our life. Let's get this show on the road. So again, welcome everybody. This is Scott Schilling, an executive trainer and coach. Absolutely love supporting people who are motivated to improve their lives. I'm ready to help do what I can to help you complete a life audit, really to remove any compromises from your life, make any changes so that you can experience and achieve the maximum happiness you deserve and achieve all your goals and aspirations. Again, if you have any questions during our time together, please feel free to post them. I'll do everything I can to respond to them as quickly as possible. So what is a life audit? A life audit is a fairly straightforward concept, and yet many of us get hung up on it simply because the thought alone can seem pretty daunting. Simply put, a life audit is when we take a long, detailed, and honest look at the various areas of our life to assess where we are and, if we're not helping to live our highest potential at this point. A life audit involves becoming aware of how you want your life to be and really align it with your mission. Assessing your current situation and seeing how it varies from what you'd like it to be. This can involve some honest soul searching, digging deep, often making some difficult decisions. And I'll warn you, this is not really for the faint-hearted. When carrying this out correctly and honestly and steadily, life audits can be incredibly empowering and inspiring. Many of my clients have noticed improvements in their lives beyond the areas with which we focus on during the life audit. For example, making positive changes in your diet, your work life improves. Making a change in your relationships also improves your environment. So you see, everything is kind of tied together. Now, today we'll be discussing areas where you might need to make some changes in your life to align with your goals and your mission. I'll also discuss ways to implement changes easily and what to look for as signs and signals in your outer environments that may indicate something might not be quite right in your inner environment. I guess the question would be, have any of you previously done a life audit or known anybody that has? Any experiences that way? Just give me a thumbs up or a comment. So again, leave the comments as we go along if that's beneficial to you as we go. So what's my mission in all this? Well, before we go any further, I'll stress that doing a life audit without a clear goal or idea regarding what you want out of your life will not align. It probably will not be effective. In order to make an effective life audit and truly maximize your chances of achieving happiness and purpose, you must first have a clear idea of how you want your life to appear or feel afterwards. Some people call it a mission. Some people call it a vocation. Others, maybe a calling. No matter what word you use to describe it, it all comes down to the sense of purpose, fulfillment, and achievement from integrating and balancing our work with our personal lives and personal goals. It's why I love doing what I do, quite frankly. I get to balance all these things. It might be that you see yourself cultivating a healthier lifestyle. That's great. I know that I've had periods of time where I've done that. But what does that entail? Vaguely labeling what you want to greatly greatly decreases your chances of achieving your goal. To succeed, you must dig deep. You got to examine your wishes. You got to be critical and detailed about your approach. And that's all involved in how you create your plan. A personal mission statement will help you articulate your values and your beliefs. You know, as they say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. You need to determine your personal definition of success and share your talents with the world. It will generate a sense of clarity and focus around what it is you're really trying to do with this life audit. Again, I've gone through this myself, which is one of the ways that I changed careers a number of years ago. The critical thing to note here is that everybody's mission statement will be different. It's not my task or desire to tell you what you should be doing. No matter what field you work in, what your personal life looks like, or what your goals are, there's one key fact. You have to find your why. Why are you doing any of this? So how do you make a mission statement? Well, the best way to get to the bottom of your mission is to follow some steps here. This is where you might want to take a few notes. Dedicate a small amount of time to simply write this down. Write down a list of what your ideal life looks like. It's amazing how many people aren't really living their truth these days. Where do you see this life audit taking you? Now, some of the areas in which I've taken into account, and I've put these in my new book, is all 7 areas of life, quite frankly, because we're a little bit of all of this at some time. That's our spiritual side, professional, our career, our physical side, our financial side, our social side, our side of legacy or contribution, and our personal side. So step 2, I'd write down what your current situation looks like in those selected areas and be honest, be critical. Maintaining an impartial stance can really help, as if there was another person looking at your life and describing what they see. Again, that's why I have coaches and why the greatest athletes in the world have coaches. Then this is the important part. Step 3 is really to compare the two. This is a powerful exercise to clearly show you in which areas of life you need to focus on and where your biggest challenges are coming from. It will help you gain clarity and maybe even show you things you weren't aware of. Many times this is what I do with my coaching clients. I actually help them identify their blind spots. Again, that's what a lot of coaches actually do. Sorry, we got stuck there for a second. The reason why clarifying your goals and mission statement are so important lies within the innate power we all possess to create and manifest our own desires. If you're not sure what these desires are, how in the earth would you expect to achieve them? Drawing your attention inwards and aligning your actions with your goals and your core beliefs is really a surefire way to start a life audit and do it and get it right on track. Studies have shown that long-term focus and clarity produce far more effective results because the mind is ultimately an extremely powerful thing. The thoughts that we have are a direct manifestation of our conditioned beliefs, our habits, and quite frankly, existing neural pathways in the brain. Scientists have proven that these can be redirected by cultivating more self-awareness. So again, even though we've developed these neural pathways, we can modify them by changing our thought process. Becoming self-aware in relation to making a life audit is really critical. It's crucial. Without the self-awareness required to identify the various issues and potential threats to your mission statement, these are the things that are playing an active role in your life. They'll just stay there. And any changes you might be striving for will stay stuck. You've got to really get this out. We all possess the capacity to heal and transform our lives. Again, a big part of my new book is the number of not so positive events that I've been through. But I was able to defeat those events and come through them by using some of these techniques that we'll talk about here tonight. Psychologists have ascertained the benefits of what they call progressive mental alignment, PMA, for achieving goals and making large life changes. Life audits fall into this category of large life changes. And while intelligent decision-making and awareness have always been known to affect the level of life satisfaction that we achieve, the science behind PMA really exhibits the subconscious inhibitors we all possess in our brains. These are the things that prevent large-scale and longer-term changes from taking permanent effect. According to PMA studies, recent discoveries have revealed improvement blockers called bad clusters to be the root cause of negative influence in our thinking processes, our beliefs, our decisions, our actions, and our behaviors, even in our health, leading to an inner resistance against change and improvement. Therefore, if something is mentally getting in the way of achieving your goals, PMA will help you make the changes to realign your beliefs and thought patterns that will help you alter this. Hopefully that's making a little sense to everybody as we go along. Progressing in alignment with your clear mental and emotional goals is far more beneficial than progressing blindly simply because you feel you should be. We can think of this in terms of life auditing and use it as we go forward with this process. Excuse me. So before embarking on any big life decisions or change, our core values must be clarified. Now, I was very fortunate. I had some friends grab me and one day just flat asked me, what are your core values? And it was amazing that once I dug down and I really identified them, how big a difference that made going forward. It's important to clarify core values in order to ensure that any change or decision is made and that it's in alignment with your core values to maximize your success. Core values are the fundamental beliefs by which we live our lives. They dictate our behaviors, our decisions, our actions, and whether consciously or unconsciously, in essence, our understanding of the difference between what's right and what's wrong. In order to audit your life and get on a more positive path and a place of authenticity and personal fulfillment, it's critical to identify your core values. No positive change in your life will be lasting if it does not align with your core values. Your core values you will always guide towards them. So you've got to be in alignment. I'd like you to think of maybe 2 or 3 people in your life that have influenced you in the way that you see the world. I think you'll start to see how maybe their core values and some of their beliefs have moved you along the way. Now, my top 5 core values that I share in my new book are faith, honesty, integrity, courage, and stewardship. I start with a spiritual foundation. Not my job to get you to believe what I believe. It is my job to encourage you to believe. Honesty in what you're doing. Integrity, doing things for the right reasons, at the right times, all the time. Courage, that's not absence of fear, that's fighting through the fear. And stewardship is we've all been given much. Quite frankly, we all, I believe, have a responsibility to take care of what we've been entrusted with. Now, again, you can comment as we go along. There's no real requirement to share, but if you want to share some of that as we go along, that'd be awesome. It'll maybe get a little discussion going later on. So how do we recognize our core values? Well, when we don't honor our core values, our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual state is where we experience discomfort. Sometimes it can be obvious. That uncomfortable feeling of knowing some information about a friend's cheating partner, for example, is an obvious state of unease, which stems from the act that we perceive as negative. We might suggest that honesty and integrity are high on your list of core values because of that. I mean, if things like that bother you. I once had a salesperson that told me when we were out away from home and having to stay out, he said, I love the fact that I have to stay on the road. It gets me away from my spouse. Well, if he's cheating on his spouse, he's probably cheating on the company. Just a thought. In other times, it might not be so obvious. Things like feeling a dis-ease about other people's actions in which you're not able to justify or explain, or maybe some unconscious habits you've picked up that deep down you know don't make you feel good. But your clarity on the matter is blurred for you, and you need to learn to see why. So some examples of core values can include, now this isn't an all-encompassing list, so it's not limited to this, but it could include health and well-being. When your health and well-being is at the core of your personal beliefs, you more than likely make healthier decisions regarding food and drink and exercise, mental stimulation, downtime, overall physical and mental health. How about core values of family and relationships? People who value family over other aspects of their lives are likely to thrive best in a positive home environment and make decisions based around how they view their family and how their personal life may be impacted. Then we need to identify our wants and our needs. This is a commonly encountered theme in which many people struggle to honestly identify your wants over your needs. So I'd suggest you ask yourself these questions. What do I need to be happy? The question will almost always align you closer with your core values. What do I think I need to be happy? These things prove to be wants disguised as needs. Are there things I want which can be done without? Gives you some pretty good insight. What are these things? Now be honest and open up yourself about these needs. A life audit won't work unless you're used to dealing with some of this uncomfortable stuff as we go along. There are some correlations between needs and core values. The main way to distinguish between them is that needs are generally more immediate and fleeting than their values. This means that our day-to-day needs fluctuate on a daily basis, and our values generally remain the same over time. They don't fluctuate quite as much. Let's take a look at relationships. Relationships are a commonly occurring theme of people's lists and their core values, and they may need to be reevaluated during a life audit. No matter how big or small a role people play in your life, it's important to take adequate time to consider the quality of your relationships when seeking to make personal changes. The nature of relationships can mean that sometimes There's a conversation surrounding your life audit, and any changes that might need to be made can feel a little awkward or even cause some pain on the surface. Maybe you're hanging around with some people that probably aren't aligned with where you want to go. As much as you can change your own beliefs and habits and everyday practices to suit your new lifestyle, the fact remains you cannot change another person's opinion or image. This is important to remember. So as you're analyzing those current relationships, try to objectively look at your relationships with family, with certain friends or friend groups, and with significant others. Take into account the dialogue and general sense of positivity or negativity you receive from those interactions. You ever have one of those friends that a dark cloud is going to follow them into the room? Probably not the one to call friend going forward. Note if these relationships are taking you closer or further from your core values. One vital thing to think about in any successful relationship is an underlying agreement or similarity of some key core values. If these are not present, it may be time to make some changes in the relationships. So again, I was very fortunate. I had a group of guys who really took the time to identify their core values for my benefit. And then I was able to parallel many of those. And we have some very strong relationships because of that. We also have to identify our conditioned patterns, no matter if it's a complete life audit you're trying to achieve or seeking to make a few simple changes to improve the quality of your life. It's vital that you identify any conditioned patterns in your behavior or thought patterns that may be hindering your progress. Conditioned beliefs refer to the subconscious beliefs and attitudes that we form as young children, generally before the age of 7. These patterns form as a direct result of our immediate environment, the people we come in contact with, and the attitudes of parents and caregivers as we grow up. It's interesting. On this webinar is somebody that I've known since I was 4 years old. That's before 7. Some pretty fun times in those early years. Part of identifying core values is to identify those thought patterns and to acknowledge the impact they have or had upon your actions and current life situations. No matter what your goal, conditioned beliefs can be some of the most hindering obstacles. People talk about being stuck in patterns. This is what we're talking about here. We will encounter all these kinds of things as we strive to better our lives. They're difficult because they can they can be difficult to identify, but when we do, it's really often even more difficult to accept them. Nobody purposely believes that before the age of 7, anybody was trying to impart something to you that wasn't going to be positive. It can help if you contemplate specific habits and patterns and behaviors you feel you may have inherited at a young age. Once you've identified that, it's time to separate yourself from them. They're not yours. You have no obligation to continue to follow them. It's simply a matter of changing your habits. Again, at the end of this webinar, I will give you resources with some of the articles and some of the research that I've done preparing for this to help you through these various situations. Then we can look at our environment and do an environment check. Another important element in our daily lives, which impacts the mental and physical health more than we really may realize, is our environment. These are things like the place you live, the space you sleep in, the area you work in, even the quality of light or air or sound in these places can influence your perception of life. They talk about Seattle being rainy all the time and being dark. Or I live in Texas. We have a lot of sunlight. Those are differences in environment, fairly obvious differences. During your life auditing, thinking about these various elements of your current living environment might also be impacting the problems you've identified as the key to beginning and be the beginning of the process to start changing them. So ask yourself these questions. Is your house cluttered? Science has proven that a cluttered and messy living space actually significantly affects our happiness, clarity, and anxiety levels. Is your home environment bright or dark? Is it large or small? These factors also play a part in the overall mentality when we get home after a long day. The space we consider to be our home is a vital element on how we form our personal internal landscapes. If you're aware that something in your environment needs changing, well, then it's probably worth taking the time to do so, even if it means investing a little more time or money or even effort than you've become accustomed to. Do a spring cleanup, donate unworn clothes to charity, or organize a clothes swap with some friends who may be seeking similar clear outs. The possibilities are endless. You'll probably feel all the better for getting a little creative. It'll have a little fun along the way. Then, how about career change or, doing something different? Part of our everyday lives, which you can provide the most difficult thing to alter, is some kind of form of negative workspace. Identifying whether the problem lies in the actual job or simply in the environment is something that you should really work to clarify. If you've identified that your career as an area which causes needless stress and anxiety on you, it's not just the space in which you work in every day, then challenge yourself to tackle those issues head on by analyzing the potential for a change. Now, as an example, when I went to become an executive coach, a international trainer and speaker, I was the vice president of sales and marketing for a company. There was nothing there from an environmental side other than wanting to serve more people. I felt I could do more if I made that change. Ask yourself these questions about your office. Do you have to stay in the office? Can you work from home? Is it possible to find a new location in a similar field? Do you have the resources or the desire to upskill and change directions completely? Remember that career changes do not mean that you have failed. Quite frankly, they do not mean that you're any less skilled. It actually reflects positively on your ability to recognize the stressors and the parts of your life that are out of alignment with your core values. Ultimately, something which strengthens your value as an employee, as you're more likely to be passionate about something that's in closer to alignment with your core values. So again, I wanted to serve more people. Going out and speaking allowed me to do that. It made me in closer alignment. So how should you determine if you should make a career change? Well, even with the facts and statistics, it's normal to have some doubts about uprooting everything you've worked hard for. Ask yourself questions like the ones I'm going to share with you here. And if you're still a little uncertain about job versus work environment, check these things out. Here's some questions. Does my current job align with my core values and allow me to feel a true sense of fulfillment? I know as I've become more mature, that's code word for older, fulfillment is far more important than some of the other stuff that was more important when I was younger. It's the same. Now, what's interesting, millennials are getting to that place of significance faster. It's a very interesting dynamic going on in the marketplace right now. Does my current workspace cause me stress and anxiety just thinking about it? How many of you, you feel great over the weekend and every Monday morning you don't feel so good? They call that a clue. How can I make changes to rectify this? Am I using my passions and hobbies in my work? Could I orchestrate a way to integrate them into my work life? In other words, could you get closer to the things you really love? It's understandable that career changers are among the life shifts that may not be as straightforward as others. It helps to consider the bigger picture and plan ahead. Uh, if it feels overwhelming, I understand. Searching courses or paths of generating income that align with your core value and passions is a great place to start. One really important thing to note is don't close yourself off to the possibilities. You know, if it's a career question still causing you stress, try relaxing and even possibly, you know, picturing yourself doing something different. Ask yourself the age-old question, what would I do if money wasn't an option? What if I didn't have to concern myself about money? What if I had all the money in the world? Believe yourself capable of starting and achieving anything. And more than likely, you'll succeed at it. The bottom line is getting honest with yourself and really looking at your current situation, your work environment, and look at that as the first step as you start to make some moves along the way. How about aligning yourself spiritually and your spiritual and mental health? Well, as aligning with core values and beliefs and passion, it's vital to make a life audit of how you prioritize positive physical and mental health practices during and after your life audit. After all, without health and well-being, any life changes and experiences will seem less vibrant than they could have been if you weren't experiencing them with a full bill of mental and physical health. I know playing 5 sports growing up has left me with a few bumps and bruises. Well, I'm looking at different ways to exercise differently. This morning, I was swimming as an example. I'm looking at things that are outside of what my norm has been. Something that helps us consider all the things that you could be achieving with your creativity, passion, mental energy, really be putting towards achieving your goals. If you could only get your mind and body clear and balanced enough to let the energy flow that way. You might find that if health and well-being are high on your list of core values, and you're not really paying attention or heeding this, your mind and body may be exposed to habits and things that negatively impact them. Deciding on a course of action to rectify this will be key to your life audit. The good news is that almost all life audits involve improving some areas of health and well-being that are currently not being attended to. As you're going through these typical areas of your life audit, ask yourself how each one of these makes you feel and how it impacts your mental and physical health. This will be a big factor in your decisions going forward. I'm pretty sure you're going to want to really look at these areas in your life. Now, meditation is not a new phenomenon. In fact, it's been around for centuries. It's a century-old method of silencing your mind, turning your emotions to the present moment. It's really about getting quiet and being present. In my book, I talk about my quiet time in the morning, and I don't know that it's as much meditation as it is just getting quiet, some spiritual activities, and then just listening for the opportunities going forward. It's only since the Western world got wind of meditation late in the 20th century that studies truly began to investigate the benefits of engaging in regular meditation for both the mind and body. Sometimes meditation might lead us to realize that we should make the life audit, quite frankly. There's so much noise around us. Sometimes just getting quiet is an amazing thing. Some people may only begin meditation as a means of making some changes, and many start meditating with the intent of solving some mental chatter that writing lists and planning different things just won't stop. Well, a life audit is designed to increase your overall sense of self-awareness and happiness, also your well-being. And many times meditation fits nicely into that equation. There's some great articles on this. And again, as I share the resources for those who want them, I'll share the articles where I've been doing this study. Fitness and health, it's all connected. You know, we only have, it's funny, one of the talks that I do, I often ask by a show of hands, how many of you plan on staying in your life, staying in your body the rest of your life? I mean, we take it so for granted. I know I do. And so that's why these things need to be a large portion of your life audit. You know, we got to get revolving around increased fitness level and optimizing health. There's very little that won't be affected by improving this area of your life. So my suggestion is make fitness a priority, but don't get too obsessed. You might find that if you go through phases of being dedicated to a fitness plan, that's okay, and then fall off the bandwagon every once in a while, that's okay too. It's all kind of normal. Set small, achievable fitness goals. This is to combat the periodic spurts of fitness. Set yourself that small, achievable goal. Chances are you're going to need your energy to spend elsewhere as you're doing this life audit quest. So I wouldn't put it all your energy in one place. You know, 10 to 15 minutes a day of whatever activity brings you joy and is aligned with your lifestyle goals and the circumstances will make you much happier, and you'll gain much more satisfaction than pushing yourself for 2 hours of unhealthy activity and environment where you feel anxious just thinking about it. I know, again, growing up playing 5 sports, we got pushed to do a lot of physical activities. Well, I got to tell you, I don't work out as hard anymore. Why? Boy, some of it just plain hurts. That's why. Now, my daughter, who's a CrossFitter, she goes after it like a maniac, and it's awesome. That's right for her and her life audit. What I'm doing is right for me. You've got to find what's right for you. If you haven't already set out to maximize your fitness and health as part of your life audit, I strongly recommend you taking it into consideration. It doesn't have to be a huge change, but know that becoming a little more aware of how you move your body and what you take in will ultimately increase your chances of changing your life. Not long ago, I went keto, and it was amazing at my energy levels, a variety of different things. Not suggesting that's the right thing for everybody. It was the right thing for me at that time. Again, I'll pass along more resources as we move on later on. How about a digital reset? You know, this is something that as a baby boomer, I think I tend to do more naturally. As an example, I've got a rule. I turn off my phone at 6:30 p.m. It's not unusual to have somebody leave me a message that said, "Hey, I called you at 7 last night." And I'll say, "Yeah, my phone was off. I called you the first thing this morning." They'll say, "But I called you." I said, "Just because I have a phone does not obligate me to answer it." And so again, this is more a digital reset, and just to get you thinking about our digital obsessions. You know, sometimes it can be difficult to see the true impact of our online hours and what's going on with our happiness because of it. There's 2.56 billion people who use social media daily. Think about that. Over 2.5 billion people. That's over 30% of the people on the planet, are almost 40% are using social media daily. Now, if you've encountered this to be addictive or damaging in nature by being constantly online, I suggest put it into your audit here. There's no hiding from it. Online life is now become almost synonymous with our day-to-day lives. I get that. And couples staring at their screens rather than talking to each other. Kids stuck inside playing video and online games rather than playing outside, moving their bodies. I mean, we were given a tennis ball and a stick. Go do something with it. And now it's a joystick and in a video game. Uh, our bodies are meant to move. There's no doubt about this. Um, it's a very, it's in this image of getting stuck with non-existent reality that plays into our lives, needing a reboot, and possibly even has to do with why you find yourself here today. I encourage you to do a digital detox, and I think you'll find that as soon as you do, you'll increase your productivity, you'll increase your positivity, you'll have more regulated sleep patterns, and I think you'll have improved relationships as well. I'd say definitely something to consider should you want to take the initiative when we talk about this here in this life audit. Again, get more specific. How can we do a digital detox? There are many ways to do the digital detox. Be aware that they may not all fit into your new life audit plan. For instance, if you work online or use social media as part of your business and marketing strategies, it can be difficult to avoid the necessity of online hours. But here's what I want to clarify with this. Social media can be very beneficial when used the right way. In order to determine what the best fit of social media into your new life plan is to assess the why, the when, and the how to use it. Questions that I ask people as I coach. Do you check your phone the first thing each morning? Do you find yourself mindlessly scrolling social media with no agenda whatsoever? Are there certain people you only contact through social media? If so, you could possibly ask them to use another messaging platform so you can lower your usage. Are you drawn back to your smartphone or laptop whenever you get bored? What does social media do to lower your productivity? Are there any positive emotions generated from being online? Now, again, ask yourself these questions, and I would start to think through, are there ways to modify your time online? Do you have any experience detoxing from social media? Any tips would be great if anybody wants to leave them in the chat box, because I'm sure everybody could use a little help with this. Then there's decluttering your space. Some people define the very act of life auditing as decluttering your life. So it makes sense to clean up your physical environment as well as your mental space. If your home and everyday surroundings are messy, cluttered, and you've got possessions thrown all about, items of clothing, variety of different things, you might want to get literal and clear them out and throw them out to, get them out of the way so they're not just hanging around. It makes sense when you think about it. The more old stuff that's hanging around, the more likely are you to go back and try it on. Removing the temptation of this from your life and decluttering your space is an effective way to start your life audit. So tips for doing it: be brutal. Is it something you will not wear in the next month? Unless it's a seasonal object, get rid of it. Then do another cleanse next season. Is it something you might wear on a special occasion, but have no such occasions in the next coming months to wear? You might want to get rid of it. Is it something you haven't used in the past 6 months? Definitely get rid of it. Is it something that has sentimental value or specific memories associated with it, but it isn't really useful or practical? My encouragement would be to get rid of it. This can be a challenging one, but unless the value is irreplaceable, consider parting ways with it. Decluttering helps you to create a clearer, more relaxing, spacious home environment for you to begin formulating the life and dreams you've always had. It's kind of like diffusing oils and using scented candles. It's just kind of gaining that peacefulness of your space. Then basically you decide on an action plan. Okay, so once you've established a firm understanding of your core values, what needs to be changed in your life, and face some underlying, root causes of existing problems. Now it's time to create the action plan. Well, this can be tailored to suit you in many different ways. Most people find it easier to keep it as simple as possible. The key to a good action plan is to be realistic yet honest and open with your goals. You've already written down how you see your ideal life playing out. So now it's time to put that into action. Breaking down your goals into categories is a good way to do it. So, you might have work goals. A work goal might be negotiating your promotion. Relationship goals: spend more time with your parents, meet up with friends more often, find a designated guys or gals night out, something like that. Health goals: spend an hour being physically active 3 times a week. Use what you've identified as your core values, your beliefs, existing resources, and overall goals to determine a clear course of action. Try the stop, start, more of, less of formula. This is practical, and it's a pretty good life auditing tool, a great way to be bluntly assess what you need to do and how you need to do it. So here's the example of that. I'm going to stop something. Stop procrastinating or overanalyzing situations. I'm going to start something. Start exercising every day for 20 minutes. Make more time for loved ones. Make more of something. More time for loved ones. Spend less time. Spend less time eating out. This is a basic plan that's pretty simple, but it is structured. It's to the point, easy to follow. So you start, you stop, do more of, do less of. Make sense? That's why the action plan is taken after the core values and the truth has been established. It comes down to making small changes every single day to meet your goals. That's the way this all works. It's not any one big goal. It's probably lots of little things that you're going to modify. Now, again, there's a ton of resources available that I've studied to put this presentation together. I know there's a lot of content and a lot of information. So if you want those resources, just either drop me your email address in the chat box or email me at scott@scottschilling.com and I'll send them to you. Now it's time to stay on your toes. So there are many ways to get started on the path to auditing your life today. Ultimately, it's a very personal path that only you can clearly define. And quite frankly, what works for one person may not work for another. It's important to remain self-aware and be able to honestly identify the issues so as they arise in your self-examination, you develop them into your action plan. So we're running close on our time. We'll be here to discuss for a little bit, but I do have a few final tips. So it's time for pen and paper again. First one, be consistent. If you plan on achieving change, you must consistently follow through on the plans. This means not skipping over elements of your action plan or half-heartedly completing part of what you wish to achieve. Secondly, be honest. This follows the rest. Being honest and open with yourself about what you want to achieve, the practical resources available for you to do so, and the belief and drive you wish to cultivate is crucial if you are to see any lasting change. Next, don't lose heart. If something goes wrong, by the way, it will go wrong, it's vital that you don't give up hope. Merely use this setback as a means to propel yourself forward again and keep striving towards those goals that you know you're capable of achieving. You're tremendously capable and can accomplish this. Be self-aware and self-motivating. Noticing when you begin to slack on your goals or if you have let one aspect of your goal slide, there's nothing quite as empowering as motivating yourself to get back on track. That's about it for me. I just want to start and make sure that you commit a time to go over the topics we covered today, I do want to share one more thing with you, and that is the new book that is just being released called That Sucks, What Now? Real World Solutions for Getting Through What You're Going Through. The reason that I started doing these webinars is to help share the material or some of the material that's inside the book. Why is that? Because I've gone through a number of different things in my life. I think a lot of people have, not suggesting anybody hasn't, but I would encourage you to look at those things. And what you'll find, just like I did, is there are some real world solutions getting through what you're going through. My encouragement to you would be to reach out and get this book. Now, when you do, I'll even reward you with $100 travel savings gift card. So you'll actually make 4 times the cost of the book by getting the book, because you'll get a bonus that you can go relax and enjoy some of your time. So with that, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the time. I'm going to stop the share and come back in the picture, see if we have anything on chat. From that side, I see we have a little bit on chat. Oh, thank you, Sherry. I will get you the resources and the info about the book. That's great. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments or anything that they want to share along the way? Now, we're going to be doing these webinars every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. Tell your friends, come on board. If you can't make them live, don't worry about it. I will get you as long as you register, I will get you the recording of it. So we will go from there as well. Any last thoughts or comments from the crew? All right. Well, it looks like we've, thanks, Dick. I appreciate it. Looks like we've covered the topic fairly completely. If I can ever be of service to you again, it is scott@scottschilling.com, my first name at my whole name. Please feel free to send me questions or whatever. I'll do everything I can to help you and be of service to you going forward. Until next week, God bless. Have a great evening.